Thanks for joining me on Tropical Weather Impact. It is Tuesday, August the 5th here. I'm meteorologist Peyton Malone. We are recording this in New Orleans as the tropics, well, they're trying to wake up here as we're tracking at least officially 3 separate areas. Hurricane Center highlighting 2 spots for potential development as we still track Tropical Storm Dexter. Now, Dexter is starting to transition into a post-tropical system, but still it's going to be producing some winds and waves in the north central Atlantic. Still not an issue for anybody. And then the 2 other areas we're going to be watching. Now, the update from yesterday, they have bumped up the chances for development for that east coast potential. The potential out here in the open waters of the Atlantic still at about 50-50. And any way you look at it, neither one of these features are going to be doing anything very quickly, at least over the next 48 hours. We think the development potential will be higher towards the end of the week and into the upcoming weekend. So a closer look at what's happening with Tropical Storm Dexter. Again, it's starting to transition into a non-tropical system. You can see it getting pulled apart by these upper level winds. It'll continue to travel towards the northeast and transition, but still maybe even intensify a little bit as it turns into a post-tropical system as it pushes northeast. Well north of Bermuda by over 345 miles this Tuesday morning. Let's talk about the 2 features we're going to be watching for the potential of development. That chance sitting at 40% now off the east coast, 50% out in the open waters. Now, this open water one, remember, it's a long ways out. There's uncertainty on the exact path. I'm going to break down the steering currents and potential with this one coming up here in just a few minutes. But let's start with the one off the east coast because it does warrant watching, especially for areas from North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, all watching for the potential for maybe some heavier rain towards the end of this week and more so into the weekend. Now, the update here is they're giving it a 10% chance of formation in the next 2 days. We do have some showers with it this morning, but mostly this is just what's left over of a frontal boundary. That frontal boundary is currently draped across that in that area they're watching here, so it looks like this, and then the frontal boundary drapes down like that. And so you do have showers and storms forming along it. Notice we got a big burst off the Louisiana coast this morning, but this is where we're going to watch for maybe some slow development in the next 48 to 72 hours. There's also an area of moisture we're tracking down here. Now, this is not tied to the frontal boundary. It's what's left over of some old tropical moisture and a tropical wave that will eventually try to slide into the southern Gulf this weekend. I don't see that having as much of a chance of development, but we'll talk more about that too here in just a few seconds. But that's going to be where we have a slightly better chance of getting a depression or a storm trying to form by this weekend as it slowly pushes inland. Regardless of development, looks like this is probably a rainmaker. It is a slow mover, and so watching for potential for some heavy rain up there along the coast. Let's talk about what we could see happen with this. Again, I don't think it's going to be a fast process. You can see precision cast showing as we do go throughout your Tuesday. You just have some broad spin trying to form in there, but really it's just some showers and storms. Notice as we go into Wednesday, you start to see maybe something trying to form in that formation zone area. We will see. And then as we go into Thursday, you still have something just still meandering out there, struggling to really get its footing. And so again, this is not going to be a fast process, we don't think, and it's not going to be a complete washout for those coastal areas for the rest of the week. But once we get into, I really think the end of the week here, this will bring a better shot of some heavier rains for areas like Savannah, Charleston, Wilmington. Also rough seas. You're talking about a rip current risk there along the East Coast through the end of this week and for those weekend plans. So maybe you've got a late summer vacation. Please be extra careful on the beaches. Don't get in the water if they're flying flags, and do listen to your lifeguards. Now, that feature that's on the tail of this, so this is the current feature that the Hurricane Center is highlighting. This is the feature we're going to watch here in the northern Gulf. Right now, it's that extension of tropical moisture that extends down towards like the Turks and Caicos and Cuba. We put our model in motion here. You can see there's that feature trying to spin up, but here's this tropical moisture, travels over the Florida Straits, South Florida, and then we do see that tropical moisture emerge in the Gulf by this weekend. Now, if you look at some of the ensemble models, remember ensemble models are when we take like the GFS American model and run like 51 different scenarios. And there's a couple that do show some weak low pressure forming in the central and eastern Gulf by this weekend. Now, regardless of development, just doesn't look very likely right now. This moisture's got to go somewhere, and it looks like it's probably going to lift along the northern Gulf here by early next week. And so don't be shocked if we're tracking an area of disturbed weather through the Gulf this weekend and into early next week, bringing in maybe some enhanced tropical moistures. I don't think this feature or this feature are going to blow up into anything significant, but you know, sometimes you just need a weak rainmaker to get you a little extra heavy rain. And so that's the primary thing we'll watch along the East Coast and along the Gulf Coast, will be for enhanced tropical moisture as we head into early next week. Now, with that being said, it's August. You'll watch these things closely. The wind shear is going to settle down some this weekend, and so we will watch both features closer, and you should be checking in at least once a day, especially in hurricane season, is my advice. Check in once a day, see how things are unfolding. Now, a little bit further back, what we're going to be watching long term, and this is what's going to be talked about on social media over the next few weeks, are these tropical waves rolling off the continent of Africa. Models are excited. Models realize we're heading into August. They show the atmosphere trying to improve and be less hostile, and so you're starting to see models throw out not only named storms, but significant hurricanes. Now, there is some uncertainty on if that is actually going to happen, but it's got our attention for sure. So you can see this is next Monday. We're talking 6 days from now. If there is anything out here that we need to worry about, it's still just arriving near the Caribbean islands. And so if you are watching this down in the Caribbean islands, Puerto Rico, any of the surrounding countries there, keep a closer eye on this, because the potential is there that maybe you have something around your area by the end of the weekend and early next week. Now, that's one scenario. There are scenarios that take this thing out and throw it out into the central Atlantic. And we'll talk about why here in just a second with the steering currents. But we've got over 10 days to track this thing. And hypothetical, if there is something down here and it does try to approach somewhere in the U.S., whether it be the Gulf or the East Coast, probably 10 days, 11, 12 days from now. And so we got a long time to just really sit back and watch how it evolves. Again, these are painstakingly slow processes when they're this far out. You are just really in a wait and watch phase. And that's the first thing we're going to be watching. Models think there's probably going to be several tropical waves rolling off, and things start to get active towards the middle of the month. So that may just be the precursor. I think there's going to be other areas to watch as we head into the second and third weeks of August. That is completely normal. Remember, August is when things ramp up the most. September is the busiest month of hurricane season. And so here's what we're going to be watching here with all these features. Again, I look at the GFS and European models. These are the deterministic models, meaning not the ensembles. They do show that area spin, the GFS keeping it somewhat a little bit more unorganized. The European, still a weak, sloppy system there off the East Coast by the end of this week. That's the extra moisture lifting inland. Now notice what's happening in the Gulf. That moisture I was talking about, both models do recognize it, but luckily they both show it remaining on the weak side and just some moisture. So here we are early next week. You've just got some disturbed weather, some blotches of showers and storms here and there pushing through the northern Gulf. We'll keep an eye on it, but these two features still thinking they're going to remain somewhat on the weaker side. Now, zooming out here we are next Tuesday, a week from now. You've got the biggest divergent or separation of our models. The GFS model says, hey, the U.S. needs to watch this closer. The European model says, don't lose an ounce of sleep or don't lose a minute of sleep over it. It's heading out to sea. So why do we have one model coming this way and one model saying, I'm going to go hundreds, if not thousands of miles in the other direction? All has to do with some very minor steering currents. And so in the near term, what we're going to be watching here is how strong the ridge is, and if this thing actually does try to consolidate and come together, where does that happen? Whenever you look at the GFS American model, by the end of this week and towards the Friday and Saturday time frame, it has a system trying to consolidate down in here. The European model has an upper level low spinning in here, and it tugs this thing further to the north. Therefore, it gets spun out and flung out into the Atlantic. And so that's why the European model is showing a curve. It thinks this thing is going to get tugged further and quicker out to the north thanks to that upper level low, whereas the GFS shows this thing riding further south, and that means it gets stuck under the ridge and has a better shot of being a problem for the U.S. in the 10 to 15 day time frame. And so you just have to wait and watch at this point. Whenever you have the ensemble showing out to sea for one model, the ensemble showing closer to the U.S. and the Gulf and the Caribbean, you just got to wait and see how things come together. This is one of those processes where you just really have to sit back and pulling out your hair, But the good news is it's so far out you don't have to stress about it right now. And so we'll watch it for you. Again, just check in daily, but that's why you've got some models saying out to sea, and you've got other models saying it gets trapped under the ridge, never feels the tug of that upper level low, and well, then it just rides off to the west here, and that's when you start to watch it really closely in the U.S. So both of those scenarios are still on the table. I don't think either one is necessarily more likely at this point. But we're probably going to need at least 3 to 4 more days before confidence grows and we can say if this thing's curving out to sea or if we need to watch it closer in the U.S. And again, we have over 10 days to really watch it to see how it unfolds before we need to start stressing about anything. It is hurricane season after all. This is what we do. We have to track the tropical waves. Remember, most of them never become an issue for you. It's very rare that every single tropical wave becomes a big problem for the United States. And so we're just in that wait and watch phase. I will have updates for you every single day here on Tropical Weather Impact, whether you're watching us on streaming, WWL Plus, or catching us here on YouTube. These updates, they will be frequent and often for you, so you don't need to stress about it. I will see you right back here tomorrow, same place, same time.